Good evening, everyone. My name is Mar Rovira. I'm a former professional basketball player and founder of The Move, a company that helps athletes in their transition out, which is the subject of the webinar today. It's a pleasure to host this inspiring webinar, Female Athletes Transition from Elite Sport, organized by the Johan Cruyff Institute. I want to thank the whole institution, but especially Osana Mazinean, the Johan Cruyff Institute academic advisor, for her support and trust. These kind of initiatives are really important, and I personally encourage the entire sports family to support and work in this direction, because athletes, we need protection and we need to be helped in our transition out. Today, we are going to talk about this transition from elite sport to the second life, because yes, there is a second life. And this is why the Johan Cruyff Institute invited 4 extraordinary women that I have the pleasure to share with them today their experiences. Really, it's really an honor. So please, the people who are in the other side of the screen, don't be shy. Use the chat or the questions that you have on the bottom on the right to ask as many questions as you want, because these 4 women, they are ready to answer any curiosity or any question that you want to ask. It will be at the end of the webinar, but if at some point there is something really interesting, I will introduce the question at the moment. If not, we will keep it to the end, to the Q&A at the end. So let's introduce our speakers. I will try to be short, but I think they deserve to be introduced the way that they are, because they are amazing athletes or former athletes. Our first speaker is Marga Crespi. She's a former Spanish Olympic artistic swimmer from Mallorca, I think Palma de Mallorca, right? Yeah. When she was 16 years old, she moved to Barcelona to join the national team, the Spanish national team. After 9 years in the Olympic team, 9 years in artistic swimming is crazy. I'm just saying that. Winning 10 World Championship medals and a bronze medal in the Olympics 2012 in London, she retired to move to Las Vegas and perform in one of the best shows in the world, Le Riff. Hopefully, she can explain a little bit about that. And after COVID, she moved to California to join the LA 28 marketing team, and finally decided to move to Charlotte, where I think she is at the moment. Thank you for being here with us, Marga.
Thank you so much, Mar. My pleasure to be here today, and hopefully we can, help and inspire and just tell our stories. And, I think it's really interesting to see all the points of view of all these amazing athletes here.
Yeah. I think it will be really fun and inspiring, as you said. Thank you.
Thanks.
The second speaker will be Savine Hazbro. She's an Olympic swimmer and alumna of the Sports Management Master's Program with a scholarship from the Cruyff Athlete. She competed in the Olympic Games 2012, so I think she and Marga, for sure, she crossed each other in the Villa, that's for sure. And she competed for Team Palestine and has recently completed her internship with the International Olympic Committee, which is a big thing, for the delivery of the Olympic Summer and Winter Games, if I'm not wrong. And now she's currently having a full-time job with the International Swimming Federation, which is huge as well. So congratulations for that. And thank you, Sabine, for joining us today.
Hi, Mar. Thank you for the introduction, and I'm also happy to share more with you. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Now we go with somebody that if you follow the handball world, you will know her for sure. She's Eduarda Amorim. She's a legend in women's handball. She has competed in 4 Olympic Games, if I'm not wrong. I think, yes, in Tokyo as well. World champion with Brazil in 2013, 5 European Handball Federation Champion League titles, Best Player in the World 2014, Best Player in Europe 2019, and the Best of the Last Decade, the Best Player of the Last Decade, according to the prestigious website Handball Planet. And if Handball Planet says, we believe that, right? At the end of her sporting career, she decided to open for education, which is really smart to do, and she chose the Master in Sport Management at Johan Cruyff Institute, which has allowed her to study while continuing to compete at the highest level, I think this year in Romania. So thank you, Eduarda, for being here. It's an honor.
Hello, everyone. It's also a pleasure to be here with you. I guess I'm the one here more to learn, let's say, than to share, because I'm really fresh retired. I just finished my career on 29th. But yes, it will be very nice to have this talk with you.
Thank you very much. And this is so interesting because we have all the variety that we wish for this webinar, because we have our last but not least speaker, Giorgia Sottana, and she's an athlete. She's scoring basketballs right now. She's an Italian professional basketball player and writer. I'm really curious, and I'm hoping that she explains a little bit about this aspect of her life. Former captain of the Italian basketball team with more than 140 games played for the national team, 6 Italian championships, and 1 Turkish championship. She's a writer of 2 books. Congratulations on that. And thank you very much for being here with us, Giorgia.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation here. I assume I'm the only one that didn't play the Olympics, so, and the only one that is not retired yet. So I'm here to learn too. So thank you for the invitation.
So what do you think if we just get started? Because really, with this presentation, I think I'm going to shush and just open ears and listen to your stories. And I'm going to start with Marga first and then Sabine. And the first question would be the next one. For Marga, how did you experience the process of retirement, and what was the most difficult thing to accept?
Well, so everyone is going to have their own stories for sure, but as you guys know, synchronized swimming is really like physically hard sport. So I did prepare my mind a little bit the months previous to my last competition, but I kind of did it without telling anyone. It's a team sport, so I kind of felt like if they know, they're going to feel pity for me, they're going to feel sorry, and I didn't want to have that feeling, you know, like I don't want them to feel like sorry for me. So outside of the training center, I started to do some coaching and prepare my mind, because how I keep the motivation up, you know, all these last months after going through a surgery too on my hip, and I was injured. I wasn't really recovering well. So one of the things, and it sounds silly, but one of the things like, man, I'm gonna lose all my body shape once I'm retiring, you know, how I'm gonna do this, obviously what I'm gonna do. But my assignment to be out of there was bigger than stay there. So I was like, no matter what, you know, I just gonna figure out my life, but I need to step out. Like now is the moment of where I don't have motivation enough. If it will be an individual sport, and Sabine maybe knows a little bit more about, you know, swimming is more individual, then I guess you can keep going in another ways. But here is you're fully in with the team, training 10 hours a day, or you're out. Like there's no in between. You cannot just negotiate doing a few hours a day. So I think the hardest was just knowing that I will be out too, and all that moments where the training center it's more than just a training center. It's like your family, like the people that feeds you, the people that does treatment to you, the people that cleans your room, like besides the coaches, right, and the swimmers, that at the end the moments that I remember is not the competition you win the medal, is all the process, all the year round. Like these goals created an impact on me, my teammates, that nobody else created in my whole life. Like I can meet a lot of people around, and I've been in a lot of places in the world, but nobody knows me better than these girls that spend 10 hours a day with me. So knowing that I will be far away from them, even if you believe, no, I'll come visit, you know, I think that was one of the hardest things, that and how I'm going to feel physically, and knowing that your whole world is about to change. I did take it in a really positive way. Like, I guess it's my personality too. It does a lot on these things, like, you know, because you can take it. We have examples of athletes that they go through depression after retiring. I was more like, you know, like, I will figure out. But definitely your world is about to change and you don't know how much yet. So that's, I think those points are really shocking.
Wow, that was really interesting, especially the way that you point the your body, that it's going to change because your whole life you've been having a shape with muscle, with you feel in some way, and now you start to think, how is it going to be after that? That's interesting. And then everybody who's been in a training center know that's family, and that's
Tough.
it is tough, yeah.
Tough to drop it, tough to
Yeah.
leave it, right? Like it's like a bubble. I always explain it like that. It's like a really bubble where that's why you can't even crash harder when you get out and retire, because life is not like that. Like nobody's gonna make you food, you know, after 10 hours of training. Like I was lucky that my only focus was training. Like that's it. Like you get out, you get changed really quick, you go, you have the physio, you have the food, like all these little things that even now on other countries that they are fighting for the Olympics, but they don't even have a training center, right? So they still have to go home and then eat food or whatever. So you see, I was seeing it from the good side, but at the same time, like this is gonna be tough. Like now I have to start in the real life.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And we will talk about the autonomy process that the sports athletes sometimes they are trained to suffer all the pressure in the world, but they are not trained to be autonomous in life, you know, to change a light or whatever. So we will go to this later. Thank you, Marga, very much. And now we want to hear Sabine's point of view as an athlete of an individual sport.
Same question, right?
Yeah, same question.
I believe that the hardest thing, Marga, thank you for everything you said. You mentioned really amazing points, and I'll go back. I can try to elaborate on them. But for me, I think the most difficult thing to accept is that your routine is going to change. Your sport, your practice is not going to be your number one priority. Maybe it stays your priority, but it's not going to be the only priority, because you're not going to live out of this anymore. Or in my case, in swimming, you don't live out of swimming. You always have to work career. Maybe we can speak about it later. You always have something else, but it's not easy to understand that your priority is going to change. It's going to be whether your studies or anything that you're currently working on. And I like when Marga, you mentioned the decisions and the way the athletes have all the seasons mapped out in the beginning of the season, right? So you don't have to make those micro decisions that you make every day. You wake up, it's a routine, you know how to do it. So to break that routine that you might have done for over 10 years, it's not easy at all, right? And the second thing is you mentioned also the post-retirement, maybe the stages. And worst case, but hopefully we don't see that anymore. I mean, an athlete can go, after they retire, they can go to the same, or they can feel the same psychological stages that a person that is grieving the death of a loved one. You know, they go through denial, despair, and then the anger, depression, and anxiety, reorganization, and finally acceptance. And once they accept that, they start this whole journey of acceptance, new life, so do we want to get to that point? How do you prevent that from before and or ahead of your retirement? So there's a lot of topics a lot of things to elaborate on that, but from my point of view, it's definitely the routine breaking and and the sport. Like, I mean, till now, I still believe that sport is important or my priority. Like, I still have to practice, but it took me, I mean, imagine my last competition, my last international competition was in 2014, yeah. So, and I only understood maybe last year that I don't have to practice 5 hours a day, and now, but I still have to practice, you know, because it's a healthy lifestyle and whatever. But it's a long process. So how do you prepare for that, and at the same time focus on your career? Because those athletes who are living out of their careers, there's no point of focusing on something else outside of their career if they're peaking. You know what I mean? And at the same time, how do you dedicate just smiley slot, like a very small slot within your daily schedule to think about something else, which can also help your routine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I don't know if I can go on with that or.
No, that was interesting. And you know, the paper, I'm going to just break the paper because the subjects that you just brought up right now, they are amazing. And related to that, you said something interesting. If this is your you live out of your sports, so how you are going to focus on something else. So I want to ask Eduarda and Giorgia if it's possible to study while you are doing your sports career. Why so many athletes, or even you, Sabine or Marga, while you were professional athletes, you didn't take care so much about the dual career, you know, studying while you are practicing. Why is so difficult, and what could we do to improve this? Eduarda or Giorgia, whoever wants to answer.
Yeah, I believe that as we all are here elite, so it's very common that we put our sport in the first, and all the time we have to this sport. And I believe that some sports have this possibility of making like a dual career, but some other, I think it's not possible. If you train 8 hours, 10 hours, how you are going to still put your energy to, like Marga, to something else. So I think that in this case, it's more difficult. But some other sports, for example, handball, I believe it's very possible. Again, you need to sacrifice your time. For example, for me, the master, it was really hard, especially because it was in English, and I had to put like 4 or 5 hours sometimes in one day to fit it. But I had this aim that I needed. It was in the end of my career, and I needed. But it's possible to make some other studies, some other courses which maybe don't take so much time when you want to pick your career. So maybe like a 30-70%. But I do believe it's possible with a little bit organization. I think it depends on the mentality of the player, also the education background. I had luck, for example, with some mentors. So it was a physical coach actually in the Rio 2016. Eduarda, how is that possible? You don't have a graduation. You have to think about your future. So after that, you know, he really made me wake up. And then after that, I make a graduation in the distance. And after in the end of my career, I apply for this master's scholarship. So yeah, I really think that is very important, because once you stop as a elite player in the job market, your experience doesn't count much. So you need the minimum what you can have. It's the degree. You need to put something in your curriculum. Or if you cannot have a degree, I think that today is really possible. Maybe 10, 15 years ago when I started, we didn't have so much online college with so much quality. Then you at least can learn a new language, no? In English, Spanish. So you need to find something to put in your curriculum to have in the end of, but yeah, for answering your question, I do believe that is possible and very important to think about that also.
Mm-hmm. And Giorgia?
Yeah, I agree with what she said. I think it's very important to study. I'm an athlete. I've been starting playing pro since I was 15, 16. And basketball is very different from the individual sports where you have to train, or the sports where you have to train 10 hours a day. We train 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, and that's it. But it's also very hard to put yourself into studying, because when you're done practicing, you have to go home, cook for yourself, then maybe take 1 hour nap because your body cannot go anymore, and then go to practice again, and eventually is 8 o'clock at night. So it's not packed as the other sports, but it's still like pretty hard to find the right time. When I finished school back in the days, there was no, as Eduarda said, there was no online courses. So I've been not studying for all these years, because just in the few years they started with the online courses. So it's something that I for sure will have to do in the near future. Try to study something, but I also believe that as athletes, we will always have something more than normal people has, which is the, the ability to adapt to new situation, and to work with other people, because we are constantly surrounded by people. It's not just we are not sitting at the desk and just doing our job. We have to constantly adapt, and this is something that maybe I just believe it and it's not true, but I believe it will help in the future life to find something. Then of course depends what you are looking for your future. Like, you want a job that you make 10,000 euros per month, or you just want to find a job that gives you enough money to live, and that's it. I guess that's like everyone has their own perspective on what will come next.
Mhm. Yeah, this is really interesting, and she just Giorgia just mentioned the transversal competencies that you guys as an elite athletes you have, and then you can put on the market when you go to find a job, which is really important. But as Eduarda said, it's so important that you have a degree, at least a degree in your curriculum, because uh, unfortunately, for a lot of companies, what you just did in the past as an athlete, it doesn't count in the real world. So it's so important that you add some studies to your curriculum. And I wanted to ask you all if you think that women are more aware of that and they complete their studies more than men, or it has to do more with the economical side. So sports like professional soccer, men earn a lot of money, so for them there's no motivation to go to study, because they already have their life. This is what they think, they have their life covered already. So do you think that women they study more, or it's about a money issue? Sabine?
Oh, I just had my microphone open, but I don't think I can speak in general, to be honest. I do believe that it depends on the athlete and the sport. But if you speak about NFL male athletes, of course they are. If you compare those sports between male and female, the males are gaining way much more money than the females. Then this gives them an excuse, or they do think that their life is solved and they don't have to do anything else. But at the same, in swimming, I don't see that in swimming at all. I see a huge interest in male and swimming, male and female, and same interest in studying in general. Yeah, maybe in other sport you can elaborate more and share more on this. What do you think?
Well, I also can speak mostly about handball. But yes, I don't see also there is such a difference. It depends really on the personality. I know Brazilian, he plays in Barcelona, also top of the top. He's going out to the Final Four, and he already studied much more than me, for example. For example, men, I feel that they are more interested in staying on the field as a coach, as a second coach more than women, at least until now. This is what I see. And I see also a difference on countries, actually. For example, the Scandinavian, they are very focused on, let's say, helping the educational part for the players. And I don't see they worry so much about the future. So, for example, they study because they get help, but they for sure are going to get more opportunities to work with handball than, for example, me, a Brazilian or any other country. So I think it also depends country to country, and then how the athlete will really need it, or maybe a little bit less. I still believe that everyone needs, but yeah, it depends on the motivation, on the incentive behind it.
Okay, and Georgia, what do you think? That was interesting, eh?
I think in basketball, it's a little bit different between men and women because the money are different, the incomes are very different. And a man that plays in the first league let's say in Italy, but I believe in every part of Europe, makes a lot of more money compared to us women. So I believe that most of them don't study. For example, in my team, almost every Italian players are studying and getting a degree, which is very impressive because like 10 years ago almost no one did it, and now yes. But in the men, I don't think is as common. There are some that really like to study and really like to do it, but I also believe that they are good with the money that they're making, and as Eduarda said, they are probably gonna stay more on the field and on the sport world than we probably think or want to.
Mm-hmm. And this is really interesting. Why? Because this is one of the variables that affect a lot in the process of retirement, and is the question: do I want to stay in the field, or do I want to do something else? So I don't know, Marga and Sabine, did you think about? Did you make this thought? Okay, where I want to be? I want to be in or out? And another, because today we are women here, if you want to stay in, do you have more problems, barriers, obstacles? Because as Eduarda said, it's so difficult to find a women's coach. In artistic swimming, it's not the case. It's like the opposite. And I'm so happy that Andrea Fuentes is coaching, and a lot of former athletes are doing this. But what do you think about this? Did you ask yourself, I want to stay in or out? I think Marga went out, so Sabine, please.
It's an ongoing question. I mean, it has always been, right. When I was competing, thinking, what do I want? Where do I want to end up? When do I stop competing? When do I finish? And all, etc. And when I was younger, starting my first sport championships, for instance, I knew that I wanted to stay in the field. I mean, within the swimming world, whether a coach, but then with the years, and when I was 20, I didn't see myself at all inside on the deck. Let us say, if I want to swim, and it's something that I did all my life, and I don't want to continue to be there. So that's when I felt like I needed to be away from the swimming world, just for a couple of years, and then I realized that this was not even my world, so I went back. So after my graduation from high school, I decided to study translation and interpretation because I wanted to be an interpreter or a translator in the sports world. But then I found out that, or I realized that actually as a translator, I wasn't helping. I wasn't sharing my experience. I wasn't helping in developing this my sport or helping other athletes. So that's when I got the scholarship from the Athlete Fund from the Johan Cruyff Institute, and that's where I felt like I needed to be back in sport, and this is where I ended up, and that's a decision I made ever since I stopped competing, to be there. It's on the other side, and I believe athletes like us, we competed all all our lives. I mean, for me, since I was 9, this is the thing that I most know. This is feels home whenever I speak about sport. It's my language. It's the jargon, the swim jargon. And in the end, if athletes like us can help the next generation to have a better experience than we did, or what can we improve, or where can we improve, these are the questions that we currently ask ourselves, and we are going through a watershed era where in a very changing, everything is changing now in this transition. I mean, the transition is changing positively, thankfully, and I do want to be part of this and watch it growing in all its areas. What about you, Marga?
Sorry, guys, my internet connection just decided to no work today. But if we're in the same, I think we're still in the same question. But I'm with Sabine that I do see a change. For me, it's more like 10 years ago, I didn't see it like the way they are like, all these organizations helping the athlete behind, and there wasn't really much resources, and was still like a thing of, like in our sport, like we had I think we were able to study if we had better organization. We just didn't have the organization behind. We were just obsessed with the results and keep training. And even the training was supposed to finish sometimes at 7 p.m. I remember like finishing at 10 p.m. that day, and my only class in the university, I missed it, so I do feel that changed a lot. And I always talk about my sport because when you ask the question like females and males, I cannot talk about that because it's a female sport. Now it's more mixed, but I know now it's more organized. Obviously there is less money involved too, so that makes they force the athletes that they have to find a resource outside of the sport. So that makes like coaches and the federation behind say, okay, then you guys can train in the morning, and in the afternoon you have to really study and all get a a career, because we know how important it is. I'm still struggling in life. I'm almost 32 years old, and we can talk more about it. There's an interesting question about financials because I'm still struggling, and I'm 32 years old because I do not have a career, and I didn't do one after I retired, but I do see a change in nowadays, and it really, and I always remark that, and all my, if I do talks and if people ask me, just the importance of being able to study. And that's what I'm going to teach my kids, like being able to coordinate it and negotiate that time so you can do it slower as you want. Like I tried to do my career in 4 years. I did 1 year, I remember. Then I dropped it because it was London, 2012. But definitely I am seeing an evolution on that, and I really much appreciate every time I see a company that supports athletes and they do something different than normal companies. I do really thank those because as I think Georgia said, like we adapt to a lot of situation, and people needs to know that.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that when you are in the bubble as an elite athlete, you think that no, I cannot take out time from my practice because I need to performance to put it into the studies? Because we all know what it is, what it takes to be an Olympic champion or to be on top of the top. Did you have this experience, or do you think that it might be against performance?
Oh yeah, I mean, there was no way I'm asking time to go to study. What are you talking about?
Well, okay, because your case is crazy.
Yeah, I'm talking about my sport. It's a stream, so I love
Yeah.
to see the others. Like I live with the basketball and in the Blume, and I could see like they come in and out in the training, and us it was just it's a perfectionist sport where you have to just get to the point that we have to be crazy and passionate, because crazy, like if I get paid like the soccer players, like the hour that they get paid, at the end a lot of people would do this sport, right? But it turns into a really big passion. but yeah, there was no way, not even to go to the dentist. But before, I'm talking about before. I feel like now it's more like there's more communication. Coaches change too, which is a big role, you know. And everything made that like swimmers feel more comfortable to even have to ask maybe for an exam. Like nowadays you do online like studies, and it's much easier to coordinate everything. But otherwise, no, forget about asking time for anything else that is not training. If you want to stay extra hours, then that's the only thing you can ask.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Eduarda, how did you live that?
I also would like to put some input, because even if I had time, for me also in the beginning it was like, no way, handball is my top, and I need all my energy and all my time on it, you know. So actually this also, it was one of the decisions that my studies, this one, the master at least, would be actually in the end, you know, in the last, because I planned to finish 1 year before, and then COVID. So it was like, okay, I'm going to make 1 year, and then the last year I'm going to be free to study. You know, it was also like already some plan. I had to study all the time during my career, but now maybe I'm making a little bit advertisement. But for me, it was also very interesting, and now I'm also able to give suggestions to other players to know that, for example, Johan Cruyff, they are really working with athletes which are working, and they are flexible on the schedule. And this for me was so important, because as I said, I wanted to study when I was not playing anymore in the end. But then COVID happened, and I had the Olympics, high level, Champions League. I didn't have holidays. And then I was like suffocated. I cannot do both in the same time. And then I speak with them, and they were like, instead of finishing maybe in a few months, they put my schedule a little bit later. So, you know, I was able to breathe and like accomplish that. So last April, I finished my master, and it was like an achievement, maybe like an individual, not as a player. It was the same as getting a trophy. So this was actually very nice from them.
Mm-hmm. See, this is so interesting, and Eduardo is talking about flexibility, because maybe some athletes don't know that you don't need to do your studies, your degree in 4 years. This is crazy, because you are doing your job already. So who cares if you finish in 8 years, or if you are doing the Olympic cycle, you can put 50% in the first 2 years, maybe the first year 40, and the last year 10% or 0, because it's the year closer to the Olympic Games. And as Marga said, now, at least in Spain and some other countries, coaches' mentality is changing, and you can start seeing athletes adjusting to the Olympic cycle, or planning the degree in, okay, instead of 4, I will do it in 8 years, because I will be, if the injuries allow me, I will be playing already. So this is a great advance. And now I will throw you the ball to you guys, because I'm gonna drop as Marga said, the financial issue here, because this is the study said that this is another variable that it impacts really tough in the process of retirement. Even to stay longer as you wish, you know, there are athletes that they stay longer because they don't have any other option, no more income, so they are suffering at the end of their career, or an injury, and then you don't have plan B, or you are in a sport where you don't make a lot of money. So my question is, did you find financial education? Because you know you don't have a degree, or in the school they don't teach this. Did you have financial education? Did you have advisors? How did you deal with your finances while you are athlete, or nowadays? So girls, the ball in your room.
I can start, since I brought it up first. But so in my case, I joined the team in a moment where the team was already winning medals, so it was easier because Becca Ado was kind of, you know, bringing money in. So even if I was making a little of money at the beginning, because you don't make a lot, especially it was organized different in another time. Now it's more fair for everyone. So basically, I was living in a training center that is free because, you know, somebody's paying for it for you to train there, and I'm receiving some money. So through the years, I never thought of it like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, invest it in something. Like, nobody taught us that. And I feel like now I'm starting to, you know, like now I have financial advisor, and I learned a lot through the process. But I have different cases of teammates that, you know, I don't know, their family needed the money and suddenly they had to pay off something for them, and they retired. And they, some of them, let's say they retired when the becado wasn't available anymore because they didn't qualify for the next Olympic Games. So then is, what do I do? And, you know, like studying. So for some of us, it might be already, you feel it's too late. Like for me, I did retire from the sport 2014. And when I was like, oh, my life is going to be normal now, then suddenly I get an offer to work for Cirque du Soleil. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, this is awesome. Like, I need to take this. So obviously I moved into Vegas. I performed in this awesome show for almost like for 4 years actually. And then I'm not studying. And financially, you know, I have to learn other ways because you're in another country, you don't have retirement, you don't have, you know, like support of even like your family in this point, like cannot help you, you know, you are doing your own. You are getting paid to do something that you love, that is your sport. And then so it's like, what do I do? So I did find my niche of like investing in real estate that I love, but not because no one taught me. I met the right person. So that was maybe, you know, like I was in the perfect place in the right time. But I'm still struggling, you know, to know if I move back to Spain, I do not have retirement. Like, you know, there's a lot of things like I don't have a stable job again because the only opportunity I had that it was with LA28, I actually left that opportunity just because I moved to another state. I moved to Charlotte. So now is, what do I do again? You know, how I have the income. And I think it's always a struggle, especially being an athlete. Like, I feel like, what is my tag? Because when people ask me, what do you do? I'm still like confused about, what you mean, what do I do? I'm a synchronized swimmer. Even if I done marketing, I done yoga, I done coaching, like, how do you tag yourself? Like a lot of people finishes their athlete career and then they're coaches because that's the only thing they think you can do, and that's how you make money. And I don't want to be that. I want to be a coach if I choose to be a coach for whoever asks me. So I know regarding the financial, I think it's a really hard point, you know, where I was lucky enough that I joined a team where I already had results. For that reason, I paid the price of training so much, you know, because we were winning and we had to keep winning. So I learned from the best, like Gemma Mengual on that time, Irina, Raquel, all these girls that they were already training there, but at a price of, you know, not doing anything else. That's it. That's the only way you have. And then when things started to change, Spain started to lower their results, but then there's less money. So then the goals were more flexible, and then, okay, then I need to work to make money. Like, yeah, I'm living in a training center. I'm 26 years old. I'm living in a training center. It's good that they maintain me, but I don't make money, right? So it's a really frustrating moment where you get out of there. Yeah, you cashed out money for the results, but what do I do with it? What I'm supposed to do? Because I could pay off debts of my family, but what about myself? Nobody teaches you that during those years, you know, while your friends are working already and they're creating their own pensions, you are not doing that. You're just thinking that maybe you can spend it and then we'll see, you know. So I did lose a lot of time, you know, finding out about this. I think now I kind of sorted out finally, and it's like halfway to my retirement now, you know, and I live in another country. So just you know, I wish there's more financial education, and I think that's a theme where, you know, like it should be since we're kids, and especially when you're athletes.
Mm-hmm. And what would you propose?
I mean, literally a class of financial education, like maths. Like I feel like seriously, if somebody taught me, but even for me teaching others, I think is essential, especially in the world that we live nowadays.
But I have to tell you that with my company, The Move, we do these educational financial courses.
Nice.
And athletes, because I'm not mad, because I was one of them in the past. It's when you live in the bubble, it's so hard to get into the bubble. And okay, hey guys, wake up, because this is the education that you need. And even like this is, I mean, I understand, because we all know what it is, but it's difficult that they realize that they need that. Because if you do few money, at least invest it wisely, or if you do more, try to be clever to grow, to make it grow appropriately. So it's, I don't know how you guys see it, but I'm trying to do this because it's important, but it's like in the bubble is the bubble.
It's tough, for sure.
Yeah, I believe that, as you said, what we can do better, I think, especially to bring awareness for that. Because some players, they don't even think about this and don't have time, or as you said, there is also family background. Some of them need to give all the money to the family. They don't have this privilege of saving or, thinking on the future. But again, it's about getting information. And for example, I do right now already with young players like 23, 24. Hey, are you thinking about your future? What are you doing? Because in handball, okay, not everyone, but some players are able to get a good amount and also to think and invest for the future. So I was a bit late, in my opinion. It was also 25, 26 when it was first that, okay, Eduarda, try to plan, try to see. And luckily, then I was reading a lot of books. Also, my father, he, for example, have some investments. My uncle also, he works with real estate. So, somehow I started already. Okay, how much I spend by month, what I'm going to need when I finish my career. And this is what I try to build, and I was able to build. So this is, I never wanted to play because I wanted to finish when I want to finish, not because to stay on the sport because of money. And this, I had the privilege to be able to accomplish. So now I also feel very calm about finishing my career, because the financial stability is one of the, maybe the main things. Now I have time to see and find something else that I love, as the same way as handball, to work in some project. I have time to discover, because as I see and I speak with a lot of former players, like they struggle, what I like, what I want to do next. And so I think that this part, the financial part, is really important to get at least, okay, if you cannot get in the end of your career a salary which you want, but at least start where you can go to a financial market to invest in there, or real estate or whatever, but to be a little bit more calm in the end of your career. And I think you have the resources to study and at least to start raising this awareness about the subject.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Thank you for that, because you start in the right moment, Eduarda, to be calm, to figure out what do you want to do next. If not, it's like, okay, I don't have time to figure out what I want to do next, because I need to have a job to pay the bills. So it's a good strategy. And Sabine, I'm curious to know, how did you get to the International Committee, Olympic Committee internship? And can you tell us about this, and of course about your financial situation, not your financial situation, like the way that you see it.
This is a bit overwhelming, actually. Thank you, because I've just realized that I haven't even thought of this. I never thought of this. You're right, Marga. I need a finance advisor or something, because this is not something that ever thought of. It's I don't know. I grew up in a war zone. We've always thought of surviving, living day by day. It's not something I thought about my future in swimming and in sport, but I always think of what I want to do rather than how much I wanna gain, because I don't like this topic, because once you get down in the bubble, you want to have more money, and the more you have, the more desperate you are, and I don't like this. So I just try to live day by day, but I really it's a good idea. I actually need to think about it a little bit more, of course. But I am one of the lucky athletes who were able to study. So I've always known that I needed a dual career. I needed to study besides swimming. During the Olympic year, actually, I only studied Spanish so that I can, let's go from the start. I moved from Palestine to Spain when I was 17. I did not know the languages. Marga witnessed all that, but it was a new everything, new country, new language, new coaches, first time in an Olympic training center, but also practicing with a coach and an Olympic-sized pool, thanks to the Olympic Solidarity Scholarship. That's how I moved, and then I wanted to pursue a career just like anyone else. But then the Olympic year actually was a little bit hard because I had finished in 11th grade. Yeah, 11th grade in Palestine, and then I had 1 year left to finish, and that same year was the same year as the Olympics. And I needed to choose actually between finishing high school, graduating from high school, or focusing on the Olympics. So I focused on the Olympics for 1 year, and at the same time, because I wanted to do something, I studied Spanish language. And then on the following year, I graduated high school in Spanish and Catalan. And that's where I knew I wanted to pursue a career. I just didn't know what exactly I wanted to study. So yeah, in the end, I studied. I finished university, master's in Johan Cruyff Institute, and then landed a job it's a sports center in Barcelona, swimming sport, Club Natació Atlètic. It's in Barceloneta. It's swimming. I was working with the Olympic team, the water polo Olympic team there, on the weekends at the reception as well. And from there, I started thinking about the ISC and FINA when I was studying sport management, and I wanted to take advantage of I wanted to benefit from my languages, and I wanted to work in an international organization, and I was aspiring to working with either ISC or FINA, and then I ended up working with ISC first, and then now currently FINA. But that's how it basically went. I applied from when I was living in Barcelona, and got through the process, and eventually moved to Lausanne, where I'm currently at.
You're in Lausanne. Oh, this is so cool.
Yes.
Okay, so
Make a question.
So the financial, it's in the end, I think in the end it's a normal job, I think. But it was not easy at all when I, of course, left the Olympic Training Center. Did not have a scholarship anymore, because the scholarship covered everything from A to Z, every single thing. So I was, just like Marga said, I was living there. Everything was taken care of. I didn't have to worry about the financial during the time that I had the scholarship when I was in Barcelona in the Olympic Training Center. But I transitioned, let us say, from the Olympic Training Center to Barcelona City when I was 21, and that was one of the hardest phases, let us say. So I was still in a new country, because when you're in an Olympic Training Center, even there, you don't really know the city. I moved full in there just to practice from 4 to 7 hours a day. The last year, it was 7 hours a day, including Sundays, sometimes for a few months ahead of depending what championships we were preparing. So I didn't really know Barcelona. I didn't really know anything. The way it works, the way it's maybe Marga experienced this later in the States, but for me it was Spain. So, and of course, what do I do? And then as a non-European or non-Spanish, it was not easy to work there, to get my work permit. I was registered as a student who was, I was studying and I was swimming as well. But swimming visa does not exist anymore, does not exist yet in Spain. So you're a student. There's no swimmer visa or something like that. So that was not easy at all. I started studying in the morning. Then I got a work permit where you can just work 20 hours a day. It's not a full-time job. So I still wanted to swim. So I would swim at 5 a.m., go to university. It was an hour away. That was what we mentioned before, like breaking the routine, but I still wanted to compete even when I left the Olympic Training Center. So swimming at 5, university at 9, and then working the afternoon. I was working, found private English classes, receptionist at a dental clinic, just to get by, to finish university and everything. And also huge family support as well, of course. And that's how I got by until I graduated from university, then worked, then left to the States, and then went back to Spain, landed another job. So little by little, my practice was less important in a way, but at the same time, like I was working on balancing everything.
Wow. Impressive. So do you think that the skills that you use as an athlete help you with that?
Of course, yes. We always think, how can you convey all your skills and values as an athlete to wherever you work? So I always think of number one, punctuality, the way you can manage stress, especially stress, but it's a different kind of stress. I mean, you can in the work environment and as an athlete, but in the end, there are so many things that you can, as an athlete, that you can help. And in the transition, I mean, you're still the same person. So I don't want to use tags or identifications, and we can get into that, but you are the same person. Even if you're not swimming, you're not competing, but you're the same person who has learned all their lives how to be organized, how to think, how to plan ahead, retro plan before each competition. So these things are familiar, and you transition. You know how to organize your time and put priorities and etc. as an athlete. So it is some athletes don't really realize that, but it is important. So yes, you will see that, like whenever you start working full time, you will see that as an athlete I used to do this. So you have this consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is so important that you share this. Yeah, go ahead, Eduarda.
This actually was really my question. Like also to Marga, Giorgia also said in the beginning about this, that we take some skills to the after career. So maybe now, Marga, could you comment, what do you use like as your personal aptitudes, your skills that you use now for your after career? Could you share with me?
Of course. It was hard to find them at the beginning. I feel like, you still identify as an athlete. But for example, when I joined LA28, a little bit like Sabine, I was a performer, so everything was fun and easy. And then COVID happened. So I decided to move to another place and trying to land a job that I could learn something. Give me something to learn, right? Like as an athlete, like I can learn anything. And I remember finding the opportunity at LA28. Janet Evans, great swimmer, really known, gold medalist. She contacted me and she told me, you should apply for LA28. So I applied for marketing. I don't know why, because I just thought I like marketing. So, but one thing I saw is like as soon as I started and I had to start describing myself, at the end it was like teamwork. So I love to have that team. I started to meet the people and started to get super friendly with them, not just the co-workers, like a lot of corporate jobs can be. Then I started to see my perseverance, of never stopping, like keep learning, listening, and fast learning too. Like as a synchronized swimmers, they correct you, and in 2 seconds you have to change that. So, and I realized that I started to apply that on my job, and I think they were pretty happy with me. I hope. I don't know if somebody's watching it, but that I had to leave doesn't disturb because they kicked me out or anything. But then you start to see those things as an athlete, and especially how much I enjoy working with the team and just be part of something that it just allows me to keep learning. And at the end, my sport was always keep learning something new. I always kept learning about my body, about how to get higher this day, and technically better. So at the end of the job, it was the same. Like, okay, what can I do today to be better? Ask questions, and keep showing that you can do it, show that you correct them, but you're not always too intense. You always have that point of, I can do this by myself, but some things I'm going to need help. So I applied all that. Probably Sabine, that IOC and LA28 is really well connected. So we actually met, Sabine and I, one day, just to talk about it, our roles. But yeah, and I still feel an athlete because they used to use me as an athlete too. They ask you, like, as an athlete, what do you think? Right? Because we have a different mentality, and I see things that maybe they don't see. And you work for someone that they are creating the Olympic Games, right? And they are organizing Olympic Games. So they love to see our point of view. So I think we can bring a lot of things to the table. After I left LA28, I have to say it's been really hard, because if it's not a company that really allows athletes, especially with me that I don't have a career, even if I have the experience now, the work experience, even if you say all these awesome things, they might still choose someone, with a career or like more marketing background maybe. But I'm still sure whoever will hire me next is because, they will understand the mentality, and they take the time just to keep teaching and allowing us to keep learning, because at the end we are the best. Like, we are the people who are resilient. We don't complain. I never complain, like, because you're doing these and you're new, and one day you will be the best if you want to. So I'm resilient on that too. On the job I find next is because I really will, like, somebody would just give the chance to athletes like us, then that just wants to keep learning, and they we're tougher than the others and mentally stronger than the others too.
Now I can see how you get all these medals. I'm telling you, amazing, amazing mentality. Hopefully, outside people can appreciate that. Really,
Yeah.
really.
Thank you.
Yeah, impressive. And let's talk about athletic identity, because you already mentioned, and I think Eduarda has something to share with us about that.
Yes, so how people perceive us and how we perceive ourselves. So I'm this handball player, and sometimes it's very difficult to find this balance between a human being, Eduardo as a person, as a wife, as a friend, and myself as a player. So I feel that I had a big injury when I was, I don't know, it was 2015, and this also, it was very rich. Of course, it was sad because it was maybe one of the biggest one. It was, let's say, my responsibility. It was maybe not my responsibility, but maybe I didn't have the knowledge on how to prevent it and how build up the muscles needed, let's say. But it was very good in this aspect that I could get a reality shock. Like, okay, these people are with me now. These people are not with me now. Why they are not with me? They just see me as this player, as this successful one. And maybe some of these people are just by my side because I have a good position in my club, because of interest, because of this aspect, the status aspect of a player. And this was actually very good for my after, it was like, before I was happy if I play good, and I was sad if I play bad. So I was just this player, just related to my sport. And after that, I could really find a balance, even in my marriage, because maybe my husband was second priority, and it doesn't need to be like this, you know. And after this injury, I could, okay, Eduarda, you are more than a player, you're a human being. You need to work on some other aspects of your life, find other hobbies, other things you like. So it was like a shock. Wait, life is not just about handball. So this was very, very rich for me after this injury. And then, of course, I work until the end of my career, because you need also to realize that you have other aspects which can be very rich, as you said, for your after career, and you need to work on that, on your social, or learn more. Or also, I had the opportunity to be invited to be the captain of the team, so I was also reading book and understanding more about people. And so I also had the privilege to get good friendships, so that are real, you know, that are not just for the way that people see myself. So, and I don't know how it will be in the future, if I'm going to be disconnected about this image or not. But yes, we'll see. This I have no answer yet.
Wow, no, this is really, really interesting, because especially in your case, you are huge in your sport, and your athletic identity is strong, as it should be. But you've been crossing the line, and you're trying to put some balance. So that's a good sign for your after career. So you are giving the right steps. And let's talk. Let's ask Giorgia, how is she living with her athletic identity? Do you see yourself as a basketball player and only a basketball player, or are you trying to balance with your writing skills, doing something else, having more friends outside the basketball court? How are you living this?
Before you were asking the question to Eduarda, I was about to turn on my microphone on and talk about this, because we were talking about financial aspects. But as an athlete, I'm still an athlete. I believe that the most important thing for a player for any kind of sports is to understand that you are not just an athlete. Like for me, to my young teammates, that's what I first tell them. I mean, for sure, learning to deal with your money or with your income is very important. But if you don't know who you are and what you want for your life, or anyway, what are your interests, what are your values, what are your vision, the money have us. At least for me, have a second place. Me, I had a breakdown moment like about a couple years ago, where I didn't know if I still love to play basketball or not. So I had to face the question, am I doing this because I'm good at this, or am I just doing it because I don't have anything else to do? And this brought me to learn about myself and to figure out that, okay, Joe, you love to play basketball because this is your passion, and so that's why you're doing it. But you also have to learn that you love a lot of other things. That's when I start to write. That's when I start to get more into videos and pictures, which I don't really like to take videos about myself or pictures about myself, but I actually like the storytelling of what I find in front of me. So for me, for sure, one of the most important things to teach the athletes, any athletes, when they are young, is that they need to pay attention on themselves. They surely need to learn who they are, because like it's like if now to me someone comes and say, do you want to be, I don't know, like a manager? No, because that's not who I am. Maybe the money are good, maybe I could still be in basketball world, but I know that after 1 year I would drop it, because that's definitely not what I want to do. So that's also important for the career after your sport, because otherwise you start to take anything that comes without thinking what you actually really like, or what represent who you are. So at least this is my opinion, and this is how I'm trying to deal with my career after basketball and how I'm trying to transition into the next step.
Mm-hmm. So, can you tell us what do you do to find this balance?
Well, before I was, as I say, I was only just practicing and then eating and then sleeping. Now I trying to invest my free time on the things that actually have a value for me. So maybe I have my own blog. I write about stuff. I start a magazine. Now I just published my second book. So I'm actually not studying in my free time, which is bad, but I'm still doing something that I think eventually will help me to transition to the next step. But yeah, this is how I've learned about myself. More you also in the past years I had this anxiety of I need to figure out my future, because if I don't know what I'm gonna do from in 4 years from now, how I'm gonna deal with now. But that was a mistake, because then I learned that if I actually slow down and start to listen myself and listen my needs, I would also have a more clear view on what will be next. So sometimes it's hard because you want to figure out everything right away as an athlete. Like it's crazy that you don't know what you have to do tomorrow or what will be in 1 year. And but you learn to it's another skill that an athlete needs to learn, is to learn to slow down and understand that you are not like a robot, like you are a human being, so you can actually sit down and look around for 1 second and see what's going on, instead of going like a machine every time.
Amazing. I hopefully they edit this and they make little cuts and they spread it all over the world, because the reflections that you are doing here today, really they are inspiring, and hopefully they do this, because the messages that you are bringing to the audience and hopefully to the people who's going to watch it later, uh, it's gold right now. So thank you for that, Georgia. Really, really good insight from your side. And now I wanted to ask you the last two questions. The first one related to physical and mental health. And the second one I will tell you later. But feel free to talk about, uh, unfortunately, it's trendy now, mental health, but what do you think about it, and the impact that it has to this process of the transition out? I think Sabine wanted to talk about this. So please, I pass the floor to you.
Thank you. I don't know where I can start from, but it's a long process, of course, to understand what's going on once you transition, and even once you're still in practice, what you want to do. But yes, so all the changes that will happen, of course, it's not only, and as you said, it's trendy now. So in fact, right after, I mean, what happened with US gymnastics, for instance, it was the boom. Now it's the boom of talking about mental health. It has always existed, but now we are highlighting this more and more. It's not a taboo anymore. So I try to keep up with what's the athletes' view right now, the athletes that are still competing. So I'm still trying to be in touch with them to see, has things changed since I stopped competing? Is it still the same? What has changed? And even when I was competing, it was also changing already in comparison with 20 years ago. And when you even 10 years ago, when you'd say, oh, my sports psychologist, it was still a kind of a taboo. But sports psychologist has to be there to help you in visualizing your races. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, it all surrounds your performance, right? So yeah, this is why, I mean, in fact, in 2019, the IOC published the expert consensus statement on mental health, and it's like it's a comprehensive analysis of the treatment of mental health in a sporting context. And this is finally now, we're starting to speak about it, and all the sport organizations, and it's also trying to address coaches and the entourage members of the athletes. So if we educate the athletes, we need to educate coaches and whoever is behind the coaches, whoever is behind the athlete. But it is a long process. And what I wanted to say actually before, speaking about the identification, if you say, okay, I'm a swimmer, or I'm an artistic swimmer, or whatever sport you're doing, right? You identify yourself, and then if you're still doing that sport for fun, then you start comparing yourself, your performance, with your performance 5 years ago or when you peaked. But then what I always try to say, but you're also, I mean, it's not that you didn't do anything in those 5 years since you stopped competing until now. What have you learned? For instance, I know how to, whatever you do when you work, maybe you're an accountant, just like mention what you've been doing, because people might perceive you as, she was the former athlete, she doesn't look the same way. Yeah, but now I have a life. Now I'm doing so many other things. Or do people, you know, maybe people can't see that, because this is where we speak about the physical appearance, whereas Marga mentioned in the beginning, is you need to accept that your body's going to change. And so people don't see that, oh, now she actually speaks 3 more languages now. They only see, oh, she lost the muscles. So the way they perceive you is actually different. But we need to focus on what we're doing right now. So when I competed, I didn't have the experience of the other side of the IUC and the FINA. I didn't have the experience of sport management that I gained at the sport center in Barcelona. So we need to be thinking about that. And it's like we're losing so much time on thinking, comparing ourselves. And I'm the first one who does that. Actually, I went to the pool yesterday. Oh, I'm not swimming the same. But yeah, I'm not swimming the same. Why? Because I decided to have a new life, another life, transition everything that I've been doing to what I'm doing now. And in my side, it's and on my behalf, it was a very, very long transition. I mean, very long process, and it's an ongoing process in the end, because when I stopped competing, I lost a lot of weight, not in the healthiest way. And you know, people would see, oh, she's Olympian, but now she has a tiny shoulders. This is what they see. But do we want to give them access to this? Is this the most important thing that we are thinking of? Like, come on, like we have a lot to do. Like, life is short. We're advancing in way more things. And even now, if I think, I want to do more sport, but actually I've done swimming. I mean, I swam in my whole life. Now it's time to, maybe I want to try other sports, other things. And if you even change sport, I know some swimmers that are now into CrossFit or into weightlifting, and their bodies are changing drastically. So it's, as long as you stay healthy, you have a good routine, you're happy with your own skin. This is the key to just keep moving and just keep advancing on whatever attracts you, not whatever attracts the society or whatever the society thinks. Yes, who wants to add?
See, I'm telling you, another clip to send everywhere, because that was really amazing speech from your side. And hopefully you try CrossFit. I'm telling you, it's so good, so cool to do. Really. So thank you for that, Sabine. That was really amazing, because I remember before that you were telling me as a swimmer, and I have a good news. At some point, they won't remember that you were a swimmer. Now they don't know that I was a professional basketball player. I mean, oh my gosh, I'm too old. So now everybody recognizes me as a sports psychologist. So just keep building your second life, because people change as well, and do it with calmness and serenity. it will go well. So last question, unless you want to open up your mic, and speak free. What would you say to your younger self regarding sport retirement now, with your experience now?
I mean, I still consider myself young. No, I'm joking. I always say that.
Younger.
Yeah, the younger. I mean, mine is really easy, and I always say the same, and especially at the young athletes. But I wish I physically recovered better, because you do have the tools. You just sometimes don't know how to manage them. I went through 2 hip surgeries, so it's kind of I wish I did those annoying stretchings after trainings, and it's just in general, it's such a sport where our mechanicals are repetition, and you injure more one side than the other. And I wish I understood. At the end, everything is about when we say the ignorance sometimes can be good for some things, but like for me, it was like I was that ignorant where I was like, well, I go train, they take care of me, but I wish I got more information about all that physical part where, understood more my body. And at the end, it was all mental, right? Everything, like, I wish I spent more time understanding and listening when Giorgia said, stopping and listening to your body. In my case, I didn't really have much time to stop. It was competition after competition and year after year, goals after goals. But at the end, I wish I understood it better. And because I'm sure, like right now, not just the injuries. I mean, I go swim and then my shoulder hurts and I'm like, oh, look, it's almost like nice now to have that memory of, oh, it used to, my shoulder used to hurt to the point it used to fall out. Now at least, it's still okay. But it's more like understanding it and just listening, and not just yourself, your coach too. Obviously, if you have confidence with your coach and it's a good coach, then they will almost like tell you, and it almost will be on the plan nowadays of you have to do this to prevent the injuries. So I just wish I had that, because then it involves everything else, like my probably food could be better, even if we had in a training center. I mean, Sabine remembers sometimes the dinners we used to have, which didn't make sense being in a training center, have sausages for dinner, or but it changed. I heard it changed. So it involves everything. An injury is just like feeding yourself better, like sleeping and knowing that, not just knowing that, well, I can, just take a tea today and go to bed because I didn't have a good day. No. So be all conscious of all that cycle that involves being a high level athlete, not just an athlete. That's the difference for me. And I saw it. The ones they didn't make it, and I saw it in my sport, it was because they just were athletes, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the ones that we make it to the high level, it's like has to be the full circle, and nowadays even better, where you understand every single point of being a high level athlete, not just training and that's it. You have to understand the body, the mind, like the food that you put in your body, the people that is helping you to recover your body, and everything together that makes the greatest athlete.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hopefully somebody hears that, but it's changing, Marga.
It is.
It is. Thank you very much.
For me, I think that if you have to say something about, maybe it would be also regarding what Giorgia said, to maybe find new hobbies, something that you like outside your sport. I think that this is very rich to know, especially if you know a little bit before, because I feel that if you find this balance also between playing professional and being the best, but also to have some other achievements aside, it actually makes you perform better because you're happier somehow. So this is maybe one thing I would maybe do differently. And as Sabine was speaking about the mental health, maybe to get more knowledge about it, and in a little bit earlier age. I started to get maybe in 2012. This was after my first Olympic that I get the first contact, like, okay, if you want to become a top, you need also some kind of help, of mental help, like coaching or sport psychologist. And maybe if I get a bit before, this would be a bit better. Like, yeah, I would not have maybe some struggle, because I think it's very important as we speak, and also for all the players that are right now, maybe this is my message, to be humble, to ask for help if you need to. Because it's not always that you are on the top, you're going to struggle, and maybe not just help for the professional performance, but also for some personal issue, how you struggle and how you combine everything. So yes, maybe this would be my message, maybe.
Thank you very much for that. Sabine or Giorgia?
Just to add on that, actually, this is why we speak about raising awareness, because sometimes what you mentioned about that is if someone is struggling or seeing something's wrong, yes, to our younger selves, reach out, speak up, speak about it. But what if they don't know that it's not? What if then it's the norm for them? What if they don't know that it's not, that it's not normal? This shouldn't be happening. Because if athletes are surrounded by athletes with the same mentality, it's the norm for them. They don't know. If you speak about, I mean, it happens in sport, it happens in the way of life in other countries. Something that is normal to you, it's maybe not all normal to them, not normal to you. It's everyone has its own norm. So I think it goes hand in hand with raising awareness, but at the same time, speaking to them more, you know. And finally, if we're speaking about with physical injuries, if we're speaking about injury recovery, but now in the last few years we've been speaking way more about injury prevention. It's the same as mental health, right? There's mental health recovery from any kind of mental illness, mental disorder. Yes, but in the upcoming years, which is what I wish to see, what I hope to see, is helping more that from even start at grassroots level, started before raising awareness and mental health maintain, or I mean mental injuries. I mean, it's the same in the end, mental injury prevention. So I've never heard this term mental injury prevention, but the prevention before it happens. And instead of spending years to try to recover and try to build a new life and a new mentality, it's really prevented from happening from the first place. And I do see it happening, but I just hope it happens in all sports and everywhere.
Thank you very much for that. Giorgia?
Yeah, me, if I had to say something, my younger self would be like, enjoy. Like, remember that you're playing a sport, that is a game. Don't ever forget that, because sometimes when you start to gain money, you feel it like way more like a job than as a game that you choose to play. And that takes away a little bit the love and the joy of playing it. At least this is how it was for me for a little period of time. And then, as Eduardo say, don't be scared to ask for help. Like, if you feel like something is wrong, like, go ahead and raise your hand and ask for help. I worked with a mental coach for 3 years, and still the mental awareness was not as high as it is now. And it happened to me that someone made fun of me because I was working with a mental coach. But in that moment, I felt that working with someone that was helping me was way more important than just words that from other people that didn't know the situation, didn't know what I was going through. So for me, just remember, like, whoever is an athlete needs to remember that you are your own captain. Like, no one at the end of your career, or at the end of your sport career, no one will care about you. That's how it is. That's Or just for few athletes, it's gonna be something that they will carry on for the rest of their life. But for most of us, at the end, no one will remember us. So take care of yourself, because that's no one else will. This is how it is.
Wow, that was a hard statement to to end the conversation, because I think hopefully things are changing, and this is why it's so important that we build community between us, current athletes and former athletes all over the world, because we could take care of each other, because we all have connections. And it's interesting that if I have connections now that I already built for the last 15 years, I can help you guys, and you. So it would be, because at least for the sport, the team sports, people, they are used to work together. So it would be interesting that if some part of the society don't want to help, this network, this elite athletes network, it could work, and it would be interesting that we try to help each other. And if you want to add anything else, for me, really, I've been like, really, I'm going to push for the Johan Cruyff Institute to make some cuts of the meeting today, because you were giving some amazing ideas, and I think it's worth it that they spread your words all over the world, because really I learned a lot. I felt privileged to be here with you guys and to listen to all your stories. So I will shush, and if you want to say the last words to end this webinar, that I hope that it's been interesting for the audience, it's your time.
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity. Also it was very nice to talk with all of you, and it was really a rich experience. And yeah, also for my next days, next month, it was nice to hear from people who have experience and working on it, that it's normal, to go and up and down and struggle a little bit after the career. So this also makes me a bit more calm, let's say, and that it will work out eventually. So this is it was very rich experience for me. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Same here. I just wanted to say thank you so much. Truly believe, like Mar, we're a big network of athletes, and I truly believe I help some in connecting in some ways, and it's my pleasure to be here today, meeting you all, and start connecting and knowing your story. So yeah, thank you for this invite. Thank you to Johan Cruyff and Oksana that organized these, and it's been a real pleasure to share my story.
Same as well. Thank you, Mar, for giving us the platform to speak about such an important topic. And as much as I love talking about it and hearing more stories and even sharing more stories, speaking up about everything that's going on, the process, the transition, everything, but I do think, and I firmly believe, that it's time for more action. But speaking about it is number one action. So the more we speak, the more actions are taken. And I hope this conversation can lead to an improvement in sport in general, in this transition, and just helping everyone to be more aware of the importance of this topic. Because what we're seeing nowadays in professional athletes, you're super focused, once you're out, you'll deal with it later. So I see this change, and I hope this leads to an improvement. Thank you.
Same for me. Thank you all. I feel like I think I'm the oldest after Mar here, but I feel like I'm the youngest. So thank you guys for everything you've shared. It was really, really a pleasure to hear all of you. You accomplished so much in your sport career that it was real nice to be sitting here and just listen. Maybe we can do this again in 2 years when I retire, so I can figure out more stuff too. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, the people who joined us today. And I will leave you, I will let you go and have lunch or breakfast over there, overseas. And thank you very much. And let's do that. Let's network and let's start build some connections and start building the next step of our careers. Thank you very much, everybody.